Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. Stargate is the name of the movie. Please like and subscribe for new updates. In the year 800 BC, it was the middle of the night when a giant spaceship suddenly appeared in the sky and began descending above a tribal community. All the villagers immediately ran away in fear, except for one guy who couldn't help but stare at the beam of light emitted from the ship. Later in Egypt, in the 1920s, excavations took place at the base of the pyramids. When an important foreign professor arrived with his daughter Catherine, one of the excavators immediately took her to see what they had found: a series of mysterious covered rocks. Meanwhile, Catherine looks at some of the smaller artifacts and is fascinated by a gold necklace containing the Eye of Ra. At this point, the crowd began to scream as the excavator lifted up an even larger object. A giant circular metal ring shaped like a jackal's head was buried underneath. Years later, in 1994, the elderly Catherine went to the United States to attend a lecture by Daniel, an expert on ancient Egypt and its languages. He asked a group of scholars to think about his theory on how to build the pyramids, but they just laughed at him and everyone left before he could finish. Later, as Daniel tries to leave the hotel, Lieutenant Kowalski approaches him and puts him in the car where Catherine is waiting. She offers Daniel a job without giving him the details, and when Daniel hesitates, she points out that he's been kicked out of his apartment, his scholarship is over, and this is opportunity to prove his theory, so Daniel accepted. Meanwhile, in a quiet suburb, two officers search for Colonel O'Neill, who is currently in the bedroom of his deceased child. It turns out his child died playing with his father's gun, and O'Neill never moved on. The police interrupt O'Neill's breakdown to tell him that he has been reactivated. A while later, in Colorado, Daniel and Catherine entered an Air Force base located under a mountain. Daniel is taken to a laboratory where they find the capstones found in 1928, which Daniel finds impressive. However, when he saw the translation on the board, he immediately started correcting all the errors. The resulting sentence is, "A million years later in the sky there was Ra, the sun god, sealed and buried forever in his Stargate." 2 weeks later, Daniel is still diligently translating the remaining signs, but he still cannot find the language that matches the symbols on them. Needing a rest, he went for a drink and found a guard reading a newspaper with an article about the constellation Orion. This image inspired Daniel and he grabbed the diary before returning to the lab, where he grabbed a marker and began filling in the lines between the constellation stars. He then went upstairs to compare his drawing with one of the glyphs, confirming that they matched. Minutes afterward, Daniel goes to an assembly with all the researchers and the officers and spreads a star chart on the table, clarifying all the images on the tablets were star groupings put in a one-of-a-kind arrange to create an outline with 7 focuses to diagram a course to a position. At that point, he makes a drawing to clarify that to discover a goal inside any three-dimensional space, one needs 6 focuses to decide the precise area, and the 7th point is the beginning, which he demonstrates with another drawing of 2 people following to AV image. The others point out the image isn't on the gadget, and when Daniel ponders what they cruel, the divider goes up to uncover they have the Stargate found in Egypt, which is made from a mineral not found on soil. Within the control room, they actuate the Stargate, which starts turning around. A screen appears close-up pictures of all the star grouping glyphs, and Daniel takes note one that looks like a pyramid with a circle over it. He snatches a marker and includes 2 small adhere figures another to it, demonstrating his hypothesis right. They quickly program the 7th image into the door, and this enacts condition ready, so they make all the workforce empty. All of a sudden a shaking begins, and the computer screens go insane as soil is stamped as the point of beginning. The shaking keeps getting more regrettable, and abruptly the Stargate enacts with a mammoth vortex gushing outwards front and back, clearing out a vertical divider of water. Orders are given to send in a test, which moves up the incline and stops before the entryway to send through an arm. The arm proceeds to expand. At that point the test is pulled through the Stargate. The computer analyzes the data, and they find the test has bolted itself onto a point someplace within the Kaliam universe. Daniel checks the outline and uncovers that's on the other side of the known universe fair before they begin losing flag and the wormhole close down. At some point afterward, they analyze the pictures sent back by the test, which appear a room and another Stargate, so they expect both doors are associated. Readings 2 demonstrate the planet is in climatic coordinate for people. Daniel looks at the images on the other entryway and focuses out they aren't the same as theirs. The officers need to prematurely end the venture since to utilize the other door they'd ought to do a surveillance mission, but Daniel tells them he doesn't intellect going and doing the work himself. The team starts planning for the mission, and O'Neill goes to see at the fossil of the jackal-headed men, whereas a prevalent gives him a mystery objective. In the interim, Catherine approaches Daniel to blessing him her RA necklace as a token of great good fortune. Once everybody is prepared, the group enters the entryway room where the wormhole is as of now dynamic. To begin with, they send the gear meanderer, which effortlessly goes through the vortex. At that point the men cross the gate too, flabbergasted by all the lights that encompass them as as they are teleported across the universe. Abruptly, the group finds themselves in an awfully dull room with the other door. With the assistance of a few flares, they assess the room and make their way out through a corridor, where they find the building may be a reproduction of the extraordinary pyramid of Giza, and they're within the center of a forsake. Daniel is assumed to realign the Stargate, but he uncovers he can't do that. However, since he needs an arrangement, he had accepted this door would moreover have tablets, but they aren't there, so they got to discover those images to begin with. The troopers get irate with Daniel for getting them stuck here, and Kowalski pushes Daniel to the ground, but O'Neill stops him. Sometime recently things heighten. Whereas the group sets up camp, O'Neill goes back into the pyramid and opens a covered-up board on the rover, where he sets a round and hollow gadget and starts outfitting it to make a bomb. Once it's done, he includes a clock, delaying when he sees somebody drawing closer. He closes the panel as Kowalski reports the camp is prepared. Back within the camp, the other troopers bother Daniel and toss his bag out on the hills for getting them stuck here. Daniel begins the repetitive errand of picking his stuff up, only delaying to get a nibble. Whereas he looks around, he takes note of a few huge creature paw prints within the sand and begins to take after them, which takes him to a huge animal chomping on forsake vegetation. The creature has a tackle, but there aren't any individuals around. Daniel approaches the creature and delicately pets it, advertising his sweet. At that minute, O'Neill and the others arrive and tell him to remain absent from potential threat, but Daniel tells them the harness indicates it's tamed. Be that as it may, the entry of the troopers spooks the animal and causes it to begin running absent, getting its saddle. As the mammoth runs, a shouting Daniel is dragged through the hot sand for numerous miles until he inevitably passes out. Minutes afterward, Daniel is woken up when the monster licks his confront and the officers at long last capture up to him, liberating him from the saddle. Abruptly, they listen a few clamors and the group strolls to the beat of the hill to find a few tall shake columns and parts of individuals mining them. A boy named Skyareth takes note the troopers and hollers a caution, making all the other individuals solidify as the group chooses to approach them. When the individuals see Daniel's jewelry, they all bow to him. O'Neill approaches Skyareth to shake his hand as a sign of peace, but Skyar hollers and runs absent. One of the officers checks the mineral that's being mined and finds it's the same mineral utilized for the door. At that minute, Skyar comes back bringing the pioneer Kasuf with him. Kasuf says a number of words and bows, but in spite of the fact that Daniel recognizes a few of the sounds, he can't get at him. At that point, Kasuf's girl Shaori and other ladies offer the group a few bowls with a drink. In return, Daniel gives Kasuf a few sweet, which he reluctantly chomps and finds delightful. Much obliged to this trade, the group is welcome to remain with them. O'Neill acknowledges, but too makes beyond any doubt to tell the warriors that remained within the camp to secure the region. Minutes afterward, the group is strolling through the forsake with the caravan until they reach in Sweeping Stone City. When Daniel sniffles sense of his sensitivities and blows his nose, the others discover it interesting, and Skyra indeed takes his cloth as a joke. Once they're interior the city, all the individuals bow once more as they uncover an expansive disc of the Eye of Ra. Daniel clarifies that the individuals think that the Egyptian sun god Ra sent the group here. Abruptly, all the individuals start running around and O'Neill gets a call from camp, but it can't be listened since of all the inactive. At the camp, the warriors are getting encompassed by a sandstorm, so they choose to pick up their things and run inside the pyramid. Within the city, individuals are running to the doors to shut them up. Thinking they're being captured, the troopers run after them and punch a number of individuals, sometime recently taking 2 men prisoner. Skyra cuts in to require O'Neill to the beat of the divider, where he appears him that a sandstorm is drawing nearer. O'Neill at last gets at the citizens had as it were been protecting the city and tells the group they're aiming to be stuck here for whereas. Within the evening, the citizens toss an enormous party and the group is given a few modern nourishment to undertake. Daniel tries a weird-looking creature and is enchanted to report it tastes like chicken. A while later, Daniel tries to communicate by drawing a few Egyptian images on the sand, but Kasuf instantly devastates the composing with his foot, clearly drawing the images is taboo. At that point, Daniel is taken to another room where they clean him up sometime recently, leaving him alone. All of a sudden, Shaori comes in and starts disrobing, making Daniel crack out. He clarifies that's not vital and tries to form her leave, but exterior Kasuf is holding up for them to do the messy. Not needing to offend Kasuf or get Shaori an inconvenience, Daniel takes her back into the tent and holds up around to create it appear they're active. Daniel draws the pyramid on the sand and Shaori includes a circle to it, uncovering she's seen the circle sometime recently. Daniel persuades her to take him to it. In the interim, the troopers within the pyramid still can't make the radio work. Abruptly, a shining light sparkles down on the pyramid and everything begins to shake. A tremendous spaceship shows up over, gradually engulfing the pyramid until it's totally secured. The officers get apprehensive and with their weapons out they spread out to explore, and in any case something begins assaulting them within the obscurity. One by one the troopers are thumped out without a single clamor until there's as it were one man cleared out. He falls to the ground and when he turns around he sees a Protect with Anubis confront. This strange individual and another Protect drag the troopers into another room where there's a shining sarcophagus from which a hand comes out. Back within the city, Skyra sees O'Neill smoking and is awed by the fire. O'Neill blessings him the lighter and a few cigarettes, and Skyra tries to smoke by copying O'Neill as it were the conclusion of hacking. Then Skyra tries to seize a weapon, but O'Neill slaps him absent and Skyra runs out in fear. Meanwhile, Shaori takes Daniel to a cave where they discover a bunch of soil glyphs composed on the divider. Daniel begins reading them within the Egyptian he knows, and Shaori rectifies his articulation, which finally permits him to memorize the Nabaro. Minutes afterward, O'Neill O'Neill finds Daniel within the cave, and Daniel starts clarifying everything he's learned from the composing. A space traveler had gotten away from a dying world seeking out for a way to amplify his claim life. He arrived on soil and found the exceptionally primitive people, which is the scene from the starting. This traveler was R.A., who took over a human body and designated himself ruler. He utilized the Stargate to bring thousands of individuals to this planet as laborers for the mines, and with that metal, he might construct all the innovation to maintain unceasing life. At that point, a resistance happened back on soil and the Stargate was buried there. Needing to dodge another disobedience here, R.A. banned perusing and composing so individuals wouldn't keep in mind the truth. Whereas Daniel talks, Kowalski is looking around the cave and finds a circular stone just like the one within the center of the soil Stargate. Daniel is energized since typically what he's lost, and he considers the citizens must have covered up it here and trusts the soil Stargate would sometime in the not-so-distant future be reactivated. Shockingly, the stone is broken and worn out, so Daniel can't see the seventh image. Tired of all this, O'Neill reports they're returning to the pyramid, and the team takes off whereas Skyra and his companions take after them. When they discover the spaceship, they promptly get stressed, so they enter the range with their weapons out, whereas Skyra's gather sneaks around to see through the windows. Interior, they discover the team's camp things, but not a single body. All of a sudden, the secretive watch shows up, and sometime recently the warrior can respond. He gets thumped out by the guard's staff. This staff is competent of shooting like a weapon, so the watch starts shooting all over the room, whereas the rest of the group runs absent. Daniel and O'Neill make it to the room with the bomb, as it were to discover it gone. All of a sudden, the circular segment of the ceiling opens and rings lower as a light bar starts shining. 3 watches appear up and point their staff weapons. Daniel and O'Neill put their weapons down and are taken through the pillar of light until they reach a position of royalty room with dividers that are presently opening to let within the daylight. At that minute, the pioneer appears up, bringing up the bomb with him. At that point, everybody takes off their veils, uncovering their fair human and not powerful creatures. The pioneer turns out to be R.A., and when the watches bow to him, O'Neill rapidly moves to thump the watch back and take his staff. Then he fires and slaughters one of the watches, but sometime recently he can turn around. The other protect has his weapon pointed. Daniel hops between them and gets shot in step, whereas a bunch of children encompass R.A. to secure him. At that point, a protect takes his staff back and starts beating O'Neill up. Sometime recently, R.A. tells him to halt and approaches Daniel to see at the accessory. A while later, O'Neill is tossed into a water pit with all the other warriors. Exterior, Scar's bunch is looking the soldiers' sacks for weapons when they take note 2 lightweight flyers coming out of the pyramid and flying absent. Within the city, Kasuf sees the lightweight flyers as well and raises the alert, so people attempt to run and cover up. The lightweight flyers fire down on the city, shooting impacts all over the put. Kasuf stoops to inquire for benevolence, but the lightweight flyers proceed to impact absent, slaughtering numerous individuals and doing incredible harm to the town. After some passes, the lightweight flyers take off. At that point, Skyra's bunch comes back and sees all the passing and devastation. Kasuf tells Skyra this is often Ra's discipline for having made a difference to outsiders. Minutes afterward, within the pyramid, Daniel wakes up in the sarcophagus and finds his wound has been recuperated. When he comes out, the sarcophagus closes on its claim, and a kid with a cat comes to check on Daniel, sometime recently running absent. Daniel takes after him until he arrives at Ra's chambers. When Daniel inquires on the off chance that he had been dead, R.A. clarifies he chose people accurately since their bodies are simple to repair. He says they shouldn't have revived the entryway since presently he'll send the bomb back with a shipment of the uncommon mineral that will increment the bomb's dangerous control 100-fold. He made civilization, but presently he needs to annihilate it for their selling out and demonstrate he's the as it were god, beginning by taking Daniel's accessory. Within the cave, Skyra and his gather go searching for Shaori to tell her that R.A. has called for and get together with an execution. In any case, Shaori continues to share the story Daniel uncovered so they can at last know the truth, almost their individuals. Minutes afterward, all the citizens encompass the pyramid for the gathering. R.A. and his watches show up wearing their veils, and they provide Daniel a staff, requesting him to kill the officers. At that minute, Shaori, Skyra, and the boys blend within the swarm. Skyra employments the lighter to reflect the daylight and get Daniel's consideration, appearing him that they've got the soldiers' weapons. Catching on the arrange, Daniel imagines he'll murder his companions as it were to turn around and shoot the position of royalty instep. The boys shoot their weapons too, and everyone starts running around and freeze as the watches shoot their staffs at them. A couple of individuals kick the bucket within the prepare, counting one of the warriors, but everybody else gets to elude. Be that as it may, minutes afterward, the group gets stuck in a sandstorm and Daniel collapses. Fortunately, Skyra and his companions appear up, making a difference. Daniel up sometime recently, they direct the group out of the storm. In the long run, they reach a cave where everybody is covering up. Skyra appears the soldiers the weapons they recuperated, and O'Neill needs to require them all back. Kowalski says the boys may offer assistance in battle, and this makes O'Neill incensed for no reason, so Daniel makes him conversation approximately the bomb. O'Neill clarifies he had mystery orders to track down signs of any conceivable peril, and on the off chance that he found any, he had to blow up the Stargate. Daniel tells them around Ra's range and focuses out its Earth's entryway that postures the danger and ought to be closed down, but Daniel still hasn't got the 7th image, so they can't do that. O'Neill guarantees he'll caught the bomb sometime recently it can be sent through. In the interim, R.A. is angry since his watches fizzled to capture the group, so he puts an extraordinary gadget in his hand and continues to utilize it to kill a watch in a moderate and painful way. Back within the cave, Daniel Daniel learns that everybody considers Xiaori as his spouse. When he inquires her almost it, Xiaori clarifies he didn't tell anybody that Daniel didn't need her, and to demonstrate her off-base, Daniel kisses her. The following morning, Daniel finds Skyra making a drawing of their triumph. Seeing the 3 moons, Daniel tries connecting them and realizes this can be the image for this planet and so the point of beginning. Presently they can go domestic. A short time later, the Gather goes to the mines where the citizens are being utilized as slaves once more and shoots a watch, causing Kasuf and his individuals to freeze. Daniel surges to require the guard's mask off, revealing it's fair a dictator human slaving them and not a god, stunning everybody. Within the pyramid, the watches are getting the bomb prepared. The group arrives imagining to be slaves carrying mineral, and once they're interior, they uncover their weapons and open fire. A firefight starts as more individuals enter the pyramid to assist. Some men fall amid the fight and one of the watches shoots at the entryway to seal the entrance, but O'Neill shoots back to murder him. Suddenly lightweight flyers leave the pyramid once more and assault the individual's exterior, so Kowalski guides them on how to cover up and strike back. They lose many men within the prepare, so Kowalski chooses to provide up as some watches approach. In his chambers, R.A. is incensed that he's losing the fight and orders his men to send the bomb to Earth now. At that minute the group reaches the bomb and O'Neill actuates it, clarifying he'll remain on this side to blow it up after everybody returns to soil. Abruptly a watch appears up and shoots Xiaori, dangerous, injuring her sometime recently. Daniel shoots back to murder him. Desperate, Daniel picks her up and takes advantage of the opening ceiling to require her to the sarcophagus, which instantly recuperates Xiaori. In the meantime, from the opening ceiling, another Protect comes out and begins to battle O'Neill. At the same time, R.A. finds Daniel and starts harming him with his artifact glove. With as it were 3 minutes left on the bomb, O'Neill keeps hitting the watch until he oversees to overwhelm him and enacts the pearl on his hand, which makes the rings come down. O'Neill puts the guard under them so the rings murder him. The rings moreover enact in the other room and occupy R.A., giving Daniel the chance to require the jewelry back. Sometime recently the rings take him and Xiaori back to the bomb room. Exterior, the watches are about to capture all the rebels when abruptly Kasuf arrives with all his individuals and encompasses the guards to slaughter them in seconds. Seeing this defeat, R.A. actuates his spaceship, which starts raising to take him absent. In the pyramid, O'Neill tries to incapacitate the bomb but can't since R.A. fixed it, but fortunately he gets in thought. When the rings enact once more, they send the bomb through them and it appears up within the spaceship, where it explodes and at last slaughters R.A. Everybody on the planet celebrates and Skyra and the boys salute for O'Neill, who salutes back to thank them with regard. Minutes afterward, Daniel actuates the Stargate and gives the jewelry to O'Neill so he can take it to Catherine since he's chosen to remain here with Xiaori. The soldiers cross the entryway and through the shining lights, they at long last go domestic. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.